Imagine this. You're walking through your usual routine. Maybe it's a Monday. You check your phone before even opening your eyes. Notifications, emails, another day in a life that feels scripted. You brush your teeth, not really thinking. Get dressed, not really feeling. Maybe you mutter, "I'm fine," when someone asks, but you're not really sure if that's true anymore. Then suddenly you pause, not because something dramatic happened, not because the world stopped turning, but because you stopped. You don't know why. It's almost like something invisible tugged on your consciousness, something unfamiliar, yet ancient. It's the feeling that something is about to happen. No warning, no thunderclap, just this quiet pressure in your chest, a whisper in your bones that says, "Pay attention." You scroll through your feed without knowing what you're looking for, and then you land here, on this video, a title that stares at you like it knows more about you than it should. This only appears when the universe knows you're ready. Ready for what? You don't even know what that means, but you can't look away. And here's the strange part. What if this didn't show up randomly? What if there is no algorithm mistake, no coincidence, no accident of chance? What if this moment is the result of something you've silently been asking for, something you forgot you even wanted? We live in a world obsessed with answers, tutorials, explanations, how-to guides. But no one teaches you what to do when the thing you need most doesn't come as an answer, only as a question, a riddle whispered through the noise. And this is the riddle. Why does the universe only speak when you're finally quiet enough to listen? You've probably heard it said that everything happens for a reason, that timing is everything. But here's a more disturbing question. What if everything you ever wanted was always there, waiting for you to become someone who could finally see it? Let that land, not someone stronger, not smarter, not luckier, just ready. But readiness doesn't come with balloons and a welcome party. Readiness often feels like despair, like boredom, like waking up and realizing you've built a life with walls so high you can't even remember when you stopped climbing. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And that's the paradox. You want clarity, meaning truth. But the moment the truth begins to knock, it doesn't sound like a friend. It sounds like confusion, doubt, a restlessness that won't go away. Why is that? Why is it that the moment you're closest to growth is also the moment you feel most lost? Why is it that change often enters your life not as light but as shadows growing longer? Maybe, just maybe, you've been asking the wrong question all along. Maybe life isn't waiting to give you something. Maybe it's waiting for you to become something. But what? And how? Pause. Breathe. You've stumbled into a doorway, one that can't be forced open with logic or planning or even faith. It opens when your inner world begins to tremble, just enough to let something new slip through the cracks. You're not here by accident. You are the result of every unspoken longing, every sleepless night, every little whisper of, "There has to be more than this." And this video, the one staring you down right now, it's not here to answer you. Not yet. It's here to question you deeper than you've ever allowed yourself to go. So let's keep going. Because if the universe only speaks when you're ready, then what exactly has it been trying to say this whole time in the silence you've been ignoring? There's a strange thing that happens when you begin to truly awaken. Reality doesn't give you clarity. It gives you chaos. Not the kind of chaos that tears cities apart, but the kind that unravels you, quietly, subtly, like pulling one thread on a sweater, until the whole thing begins to fall apart in your hands. And that's when the panic creeps in. Because if you're not who you thought you were, if your job, your relationships, your daily routines are built on autopilot, then what is real? And who are you beneath it all? Here's the hidden problem no one talks about. Most people never meet themselves. They live entire lives playing roles that were handed to them by parents, teachers, religions, cultures, algorithms, and expectations. They obey invisible scripts, smile when they're supposed to, numb themselves with distractions, chase success as if it will rescue them from their own emptiness, and then they wonder why they feel so disconnected. Carl Jung called this the mask, the persona we wear to survive the social world. It's not inherently evil. It helps you navigate society. But the tragedy begins when you become the mask and forget there was ever a real face underneath. The privilege of a lifetime, Jung wrote, is to become who you truly are. But here's the twist. To become that person, you must first confront the terrifying truth that you are not yet whole. That's what readiness really means. Not confidence, not certainty, but willingness. The willingness to dissolve, to break open, to admit that your current identity, though safe, is a cage. Now ask yourself this. How many parts of yourself have you buried just to be accepted? How many dreams have you postponed because you were waiting for permission? How many truths have you silenced to keep the peace? Society rewards obedience, but the soul, your soul, it demands authenticity. And those two things, they rarely coexist. Friedrich Nietzsche saw it coming. He called society's values a herd morality, a system designed to domesticate the wildness within us, the drive to break rules, to question meaning, to create our own values rather than inherit them. But here's the cost. When you suppress your inner chaos for too long, it doesn't disappear. It mutates into anxiety, into depression, into a hollow ache that no achievement can fill. You call it burnout, you call it a rut, but at its core, it's a soul-level starvation. Arthur Schopenhauer argued that human life is dominated by suffering because desire itself is endless. Every time we reach a goal, we move on to the next. He believed peace only comes when we transcend this constant craving. But how do you transcend a cycle you don't even know you're trapped in? Here's how. You start by questioning the voice in your head that says, "This is just how life is." You begin to doubt the story you've been told about what matters, what success looks like, and what kind of person you need to be. Because that voice, the one that tells you to settle, to shrink, to comply, that voice is not yours. It's inherited, installed, programmed. Aldous Huxley warned of a future not ruled by tyranny, but by pleasure, a world where people are pacified not by fear but by comfort. He called it a prison of the mind. And he was right. The most dangerous prison isn't the one with bars. It's the one you don't know you're in. And most people, maybe even you, have lived their entire lives inside it. Not because they're weak, but because they were trained to be blind to it. Viktor Frankl, a survivor of Auschwitz, wrote that the last of human freedoms is the ability to choose one's attitude in any given circumstance. But he also noted that this freedom is only possible when we live with meaning. And meaning, real meaning, doesn't come from success, pleasure, or approval. It comes from alignment, from living in harmony with something deeper than yourself. Call it your soul. Call it purpose. Call it God. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you feel it. And when you're out of alignment with it, your body knows. Your mind knows. Your life begins to leak. You start forgetting why you're doing what you're doing. You start losing excitement, losing passion. You feel tired, but not the kind of tired sleep can fix. This is the psychological cost of ignoring your readiness. Because being ready isn't about feeling prepared. It's about feeling called. Not by the world outside you, but by the voice you've been trying to silence for years. And that voice, it's getting louder, because the moment you begin to notice the ache, the moment you begin to wonder if there's more, that's the moment you're no longer asleep. You're in the in-between, the sacred discomfort before transformation, and the universe, from living in harmony with something deeper than yourself. Call it your soul, call it purpose, call it God. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you feel it, and when you're out of alignment with it, your body knows. Your mind knows. Your life begins to leak. You start forgetting why you're doing what you're doing. You start losing excitement, losing passion. You feel tired, but not the kind of tired sleep can fix. This is the psychological cost of ignoring your readiness. Because being ready isn't about feeling prepared. It's about feeling called, not by the world outside you, but by the voice you've been trying to silence for years. And that voice, it's getting louder, because the moment you begin to notice the ache, the moment you begin to wonder if there's more, that's the moment you're no longer asleep. You're in the in-between, the sacred discomfort before transformation. And the universe, it's been waiting for you here. Not with applause, but with a mirror, and what you see in that mirror next will change everything. You probably thought nothing was wrong. You wake up, you go to work, you reply to texts, you laugh when you're supposed to, you say you're fine because that's what's expected. But deep down, there's a quiet dread, a faint buzzing behind the eyes, a strange sense of misalignment you can't quite explain. It's subtle, so subtle you almost believe it's normal, but it's not. This isn't just stress. This isn't just tiredness. This is what happens when your life is being directed by a version of you that was never truly chosen, only shaped. And it's not your fault, because from the very beginning you were trained to trade authenticity for approval. You were taught to believe that staying in line was safer than stepping into the unknown. You were conditioned to equate predictability with peace, even if that predictability was slowly killing you from the inside out. Here's the hard truth. Most people are not living. They are maintaining, sustaining a carefully curated identity, hoping it doesn't collapse under the weight of its own fiction. They smile in pictures. They give advice. They pretend to know who they are. But behind it all is a hollow echo. And the worst part, this hollow echo doesn't scream. It whispers. And the whisper is always the same. Something is missing. But what? You have food, shelter, friends, maybe even love. So why does everything still feel slightly off? That's the unseen consequence. The real suffering isn't loud. It doesn't come with tears or tantrums. It arrives as a quiet misalignment that lingers for years. And over time, it rewires your entire sense of reality. You begin to believe that longing is just part of being human, that emptiness is normal, that numbness is maturity. But that's a lie. It's a learned helplessness, a psychological state coined by Martin Seligman, where people stop trying to change their circumstances because past experiences taught them it's pointless. Even when freedom is right in front of them, they don't move. They don't believe they can. It's been waiting for you here. Not with applause, but with a mirror, and what you see in that mirror next will change everything. You probably thought nothing was wrong. You wake up, you go to work, you reply to texts, you laugh when you're supposed to, you say you're fine because that's what's expected. But deep down, there's a quiet dread, a faint buzzing behind the eyes, a strange sense of misalignment you can't quite explain. It's subtle, so subtle you almost believe it's normal, but it's not. Now ask yourself, how many times have you stayed in places that made your soul shrink, simply because they were familiar? How many times have you talked yourself out of what you truly wanted, because logic or fear said not yet? How many times have you settled for comfort instead of risking evolution? The consequences don't show up all at once. They arrive gradually, like rust, like decay. They hide in your habits, your scrolling, your inability to sit in silence without reaching for distraction. You start confusing movement with progress. You start mistaking reaction for passion. You chase dopamine instead of fulfillment. You lose the ability to just be. And culturally, it's even worse, because we live in a system that profits off your discontent. It monetizes your insecurity. It weaponizes your boredom. It convinces you that you are broken, and then sells you solutions that only deepen the wound. This is not accidental. Social media algorithms are not designed to awaken you. They are designed to engage you by exploiting your uncertainty. Your brain, especially the limbic system, is constantly on alert, looking for threat, looking for meaning, looking for something. But when it's fed a diet of curated images, fear-based headlines, and performative perfection, it becomes malnourished. It can no longer tell the difference between truth and noise, so you spiral. Not because you're weak, but because your environment is rigged to keep you distracted just enough to avoid asking the one question that threatens the entire system. Is this who I really am? And the answer is terrifying. Because if the answer is no, then everything you've built on top of that false self begins to tremble. Your career, your relationships, your beliefs, even your sense of time. That's why most people never ask. They'd rather endure quiet misery than risk losing their illusion of control. But not you. Not now. Because the universe doesn't send signals to people who are asleep. This ache you feel, this pull toward something more. It is not a flaw. It is a signal. The system is no longer working for your soul. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. the job that doesn't challenge you, the relationship that feels more like performance than intimacy, the dreams you keep putting off because you're scared they might actually demand you to change. Every time you ignore that signal, the consequences compound. In your body, in your mind, in your energy. You lose brightness. You lose wonder. You lose yourself. Until one day you wake up and don't recognize your own reflection. Not because it looks different, but because you are no longer behind the eyes. But here's the secret they don't tell you. Collapse is not the end. Collapse is the beginning. Because the moment you start unraveling is the moment the truth begins to breathe, and it's waiting for you. Not in the chaos, not in the comfort, but in the choice to stop pretending, to face the mirror, to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. The question is no longer what is wrong with me. The real question is, am I ready to become who I was always meant to be? And that is the rebellion. You've reached the edge, not of your life, but of the story you've been telling yourself. This is where most people turn back. They retreat into distractions, wrap themselves in logic, or numb the dissonance with whatever's most convenient: food, sex, attention, work, validation, more plans, anything but truth. But not you. You're still here, which means you're not running anymore. Now comes the rebellion. Not against the world, not against your parents or society, or some faceless authority, but against the most insidious illusion of all, that you are powerless. You're not. You never were. You were just asleep. The rebellion begins the moment you stop asking for permission. The moment you stop waiting for some cosmic sign to validate your existence. Because here's the twist. The universe didn't hold you back. You did. And you did it with reasonable excuses. You told yourself it wasn't the right time. You weren't ready. You needed more money, more confidence, more clarity. But clarity doesn't come before the leap. It follows it. Rebellion means doing the thing before you feel fully prepared, because readiness doesn't arrive as certainty. It arrives as a friction in the soul that says you can't live like this anymore. You don't break free by planning your way out. You break free by disrupting the pattern. Start small if you must. Wake up earlier. Sit in silence. Say no to things you'd normally agree to out of guilt. Question the habits that feel safe. Watch what happens. You'll feel resistance. That's normal. That's the false self, your ego fighting to stay in control. It will tell you this is reckless. It will scream that you're ruining everything. But that's how you'll know you're on the right path. Because truth doesn't feel like comfort. It feels like exposure, like walking naked into your own life for the first time. And here's the thing. This isn't just about you. It never was. Every time one person wakes up, they disturb the sleep of those around them. Your rebellion is an invitation to your friends, to your partner, to your family, to anyone who's been secretly waiting for someone to go first. So go first. Do what the others won't. Ask the questions no one dares ask at dinner. Choose depth in a culture obsessed with surfaces. Speak the truth even if your voice trembles. And most of all, act. Do the thing your soul has been whispering about for years. Start the business. End the relationship. Move to that city. Publish the book. Take the course. Not because it will be easy, but because it will make you real. History is full of people who broke free, but they all had one thing in common. They chose to lose the world they knew to find the self they never met. Soren Kierkegaard wrote that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom, and he was right. To be free is to realize you are no longer bound by the scripts, that you can change the rules, rewrite the narrative, walk away from the roles, that you don't have to be who you were 5 minutes ago. The moment you understand this deeply, viscerally, it changes everything. You stop begging life to be easier and start becoming someone strong enough to live it on your terms. You stop mistaking routine for stability. You stop worshiping comfort as if it were peace. And you begin to realize that everything you feared losing was never real to begin with. It was scaffolding, temporary, constructed for a version of you that no longer exists. Let it fall. Let the life you built for your false self collapse, so you can begin building something sacred. A life that doesn't just look good, but feels aligned. A life where your outer world becomes a reflection of your inner truth. That's what the rebellion gives you. Not answers, not guarantees, but ownership. Ownership of your energy, your time, your choices, your pain, your joy. No more blaming the past. No more outsourcing your worth. No more pretending. From this moment on, everything changes, because you've stopped running from the truth and started walking toward it, step by shaky step, breath by uncertain breath. And as you do, the noise starts to fade, the pressure lifts, and something ancient, something real begins to rise in you. Call it your soul, call it your essence, call it the part of you that was never afraid, never broken, never lost. It's been waiting for this, for you, and now, finally, you're ready. But ready for what? That is the final revelation. There's a moment, just one, where everything goes quiet. No fireworks, no divine voice from the clouds, just a stillness, so total it feels like the world is holding its breath. And in that stillness, something finally clicks, not intellectually, not even emotionally, but existentially. Like your entire being, your breath, your bones, your blood, finally remembers something you've known all along. Here it is. You were never waiting for the universe. The universe was waiting for you. It didn't withhold the truth. It didn't block your path. It didn't keep its secrets until you reached some cosmic level of enlightenment. No, it was always speaking. Through the tension, through the failures, through the gut feelings you ignored, through the moments you couldn't explain but couldn't shake either. The problem wasn't that it was silent. The problem was you were too full of noise to hear it. The world taught you to fill your life with things, goals, status, noise, constant motion. But the truth, real truth, isn't loud. It's quiet, still, terrifyingly simple. And here's the ultimate paradox. The moment you stop trying to force your life to make sense, the moment you let go of your desperate need to control, fix, explain, and solve, that's when life starts to make sense. Not logically, but poetically. Because reality isn't a puzzle to be solved. It's a mirror. And the universe, it doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you're ready to receive. The people, the lessons, the breakdowns, the strange coincidences, the painful endings, the unexpected starts. They're not random. They are reflections. Reflections of who you're becoming. Reflections of what your soul has been aching to understand. This is the secret behind every spiritual awakening, every psychological transformation, every sacred shift. You don't change because something outside of you changes. You change because you finally turn inward and realize that everything outside of you is just a projection of your inner state. You don't manifest the life you want by repeating affirmations or visualizing harder. You become a match for it. Not by striving, but by remembering. Remembering that the version of you who is aligned, whole, fearless, wise, free, that version was never far away. It was buried under trauma, under people-pleasing, under expectations, under survival mode. But it never died. It waited, in silence, in dreams, in late-night whispers to the ceiling fan, in that ache in your chest when you hear a song that reminds you of the life you forgot you wanted. This is what the universe knows. That truth doesn't arrive when you're perfect. It arrives when you're real, when you stop performing and start being. And what does being look like? It looks like presence. It looks like saying no to what drains you, even if it scares you. It looks like following the thread of what feels true, even when it leads away from everything familiar. It looks like trusting the unexplainable. It looks like choosing to believe, not in magic, but in meaning. Because here's the final truth. The universe is not a machine. It's a mirror, a field of resonance, an intelligence that responds to your inner state, not your words. You can scream for change all you want, but until your energy aligns with the reality you claim to desire, nothing shifts. The door won't open because you're yelling at it. It opens the moment you become the version of yourself that no longer needs to knock. And once it opens, you realize it was never locked. You were simply holding the handle from the wrong side. Now take a moment. Really. Stop reading. Close your eyes and ask, who would I be if I stopped waiting and started remembering? Remembering your power. Remembering your voice. Remembering that your readiness isn't something to earn. It's something to reclaim. There's no timeline, no checklist, no milestone that makes you worthy of truth, love, purpose, or peace. You are already worthy. The only thing missing was your permission. So give it, right now. No more waiting, no more rehearsing, no more asking for signs when you are the sign. You felt the pull for a reason. You found this message because something inside you, ancient and undeniable, finally cracked the surface. And now that it's cracked, there's no going back. Because now you know, the ache was the calling, the confusion was the doorway, the breakdown was the breakthrough, and this moment, this quiet, soul-shaking moment, was the invitation, not to change who you are, but to remember who you've always been. So breathe, let the old story die, and step into the one that was waiting for you all along. Because now, finally, you're ready. And the universe? It's been here the whole time, waiting for this exact version of you to arrive, to listen, to feel, to remember. And now that you have, everything changes.